Hey, what's up guys? This is Nick at Stridewise.com. Today I'm taking a look at my very first British boot, the very classy, very English country boot from Trickers, the Stow boot. So Trickers was founded in 1829. It's one of England's oldest shoe companies. It was founded by Joseph Baltrop, who sold the shoes under his own name until the 1960s when one of the Baltrops married someone called Claire Louise Tricker, and they just decided that was a better sounding name for the company, and they changed the name to Trickers. But this still is run by the Baltrop family. The current CEO is Nicholas Baltrop. He runs the company anyway. So they're very well known for their British boots. Of course, these are country boots, very well known for their calfskin leather and also the broguing on the boots, which is the name of these little perforations here. For a long time, it was absolutely unacceptable to wear brogued shoes anywhere other than like while you're actually out in the woods, like hunting foxes or whatever, because these perforations, they are for boots that are meant to be more water resistant. It's like an old-timey way of making boots water resistant. It helps it to drain the water. Now, today, of course, everyone thinks they're really cool and it's really easy to wear them in a lot of different situations. And so, let's take a closer look. Now this here is not exactly the same boot that you would get from the Trickers store or the Trickers website, because this is actually an exclusive collaboration with Division Road. That is a luxury heritage menswear boutique in Seattle, Washington. It's a very cool place. They are not paying me to say that. They did not sponsor this video, but they're a pretty cool store. The main difference is this has a Commando sole here, whereas the original version has a leather sole. There are a couple of other differences as well. The eyelets are a slightly different color, and the leather is like a tiny bit more yellow, but you know, it's the same last, same construction, basically the same boot. So as I mentioned earlier, this is actually my first British boot, which is very exciting because it really is not like an American boot. Like, it's not quite as blocky. The last is different. And it's not really sleek either. It's just, it's British. It's different. They call it substantial yet elegant on their site, which I thought was a pretty cool way to say it. It undergoes 260 at least different processes during the production stage. It's made in Northampton in England, and Trickers calls the Stow boot the perfect example of the Trickers country boot. So I was very happy to get my hands on it to show you guys. It's got this really great traditional old-fashioned broguing all over the place, which really screams British boot. I mean, it's on some American boots, but it is undeniably like a British aspect of this boot. If you don't like the Commando sole because it makes it seem less old-timey, I can appreciate that, but I'm just not a big fan of leather soles anyway, just because they scratch up really easily. They don't have very good grip. So I was personally like a big fan of getting this Commando sole here. But of course, the main event with this boot is the leather. So let's take a closer look. Now this is calfskin, and it's a semi-correct combination tannage of vegetable and chrome. I've actually got an article discussing the differences between chrome tanning and vegetable tanning in the description below, but very long story short, chrome tanned leather is pretty flexible and it has a nice sheen to it, whereas vegetable tanned leather, it ages a bit better, it's a bit more durable, it gets a nice patina, and it molds the foot a little bit better. Combination tanning tries to get the best of both worlds, and it typically results in a nice depth of color like you see here. Trickers says the tanning process includes a special mulling concoction to infuse the uppers with oils, and there's also a lot of burnishing and polishing to get this nice English finish. If you like knowing the tannery, where your leather comes from, I'm afraid you're out of luck because Trickers keeps that one a secret so the competitors don't steal the look. But Division Road told me they think it's vegetable tanned first and then retanned with chrome, but there's no guarantee there. So calfskin is usually used on dress shoes or boots, like dress boots, for more delicate situations than clumping through the English forest, hunting foxes. But this is a very hard wearing calfskin. It's quite a bit more rigid than regular calfskin, especially for the first year of wear. Usually calfskin is more flexible than this, but Trickers isn't. Like, it'll take a few months, maybe like up to a year to really soften up. But that said, I didn't have any break-in with this at all, except for like a tiny bit of abrasion on my pinky toe the first few wears. But generally, I wouldn't say this had a tough break-in. So that's an element from calfskin that it retains. Finally, this color. This is obviously a golden leather. The color is called Acorn Antique. Over time, the leather darkens and softens for a really nice patina. And even in the first week of wearing it, this did actually darken quite a bit. Well, not quite a bit, but a little bit. That's totally fine. The boots always look cool. If you want all of your boots to remain the exact same color for the rest of your life, you're gonna be pretty disappointed with boots in general. But if you do really love the original color, you've got options for retaining it. Now, for boots as fancy as these, you do get a lot of information as to how to take care of them properly. You're supposed to have shoe trees in them every time you are not wearing them to help them maintain the shape and to make sure that like it helps to draw out the moisture from your feet. I have shoe trees in them right now. I get like very worried about stuff like that for shoes as expensive as these. But you're also supposed to use shoe horns to get them on and off, which I didn't bother doing. I'm sure it'll be fine. I mean, I hope it'll be okay. Again, you are meant to use the shoe trees to get the moisture out, and you're also supposed to alternate days wearing them to help the moisture get out of there. Otherwise, that can like sort of make the leather not rot really, but like age a little bit faster. And on that note, when they get wet, you're not supposed to let them dry in front of a fire or in front of a radiator or anything like that, because that will like just drag out all of the natural oils in the leather, and then it'll be more prone to cracking and it won't last quite as long. Now, when it comes to actual products to use to condition the leather, Trickers recommends a waxed polish. So, I mean, Venetian shoe cream would probably be fine, but Trickers actually sells a polish that's like pretty much the exact same color, this acorn color. So if you're really attached to the color, or if you want to restore it to its original color, again, this is a very slightly different color than the actual color that they have from the Trickers store itself, because this is the Division Road collaboration. But in any case, if you want a nice yellow one that is approved by Trickers themselves, it might be worth the international shipping fees to get that shipped over. Otherwise, I'm sure you can find a yellow polish somewhere in the US. Now again, the British version of this has a leather sole. This is the Commando outsole from Division Road. It is not remotely formal or dressy, but honestly, it is better suited to clumping around the English countryside like these boots are supposed to do, at least in theory. This has a leather midsole as well, a natural leather midsole, which means it's undyed, unfinished leather right beneath the welt. That's like this color right here. And there's a caulking compound in the insole. And this is really interesting. There's a 9-iron leather insole that has a groove cut into it, like they hollow it out and fill it with cork, and that's where they put the wood shank as well. Most companies that have cork in the midsole, they use like a pre-made like rubber mat, but Trickers has had the same cork filler they've been using for the last 200 years. It's like the same recipe. So that's pretty cool. It's very rare to have hand-filled cork material, and a lot of people like it better a lot. They say it like conforms to the foot a lot more quickly. And I also found that as well. I've been wearing these shoes for quite a while, by the way, and I have found that it really broke into my foot a lot faster than like many of their competitors. Now, the shoe is Goodyear welted, but it is a bar bore welt, which is a specific shape of the welt that goes across the welt. So the bar bore refers to a semi-storm welt or a rounded storm welt. So it's similar to a storm welt, but not quite as high as a storm welt, like the ones you'll see in like the Allen Edmonds Higgins Mill or the Grant Stone Diesel. Storm welts are very water resistant, but a lot of people don't like the aesthetics of it. So this bar bore welt, the semi-storm welt, a lot of people think of that as like a really good compromise between the two. So Trickers, of course, uses UK sizing, and a lot of people, they just think that means to size down a half size. But for me, I just size down a full size from my Brannock size, like my true size. So on a Brannock device, I'm like between 11.5 and a 12. Every shoe that's true to size for me is 11.5. Most boots that can run large, so like my Red Wing, my Wolverine, my Thursday, my Viborg, those are all a size 11. This is size 10.5, so that's a full size down from my true size. And that's the same size as my RM Williams boots as well, which is an Australian company that uses British sizing. So that's what I worked with. It's fine, it fit really well. I didn't have any complaints. Shock absorption is really good. The last is called the 4497 last, and it's a little bit wider in the toe box and the heel than like a dress shoe. And when I put them on, I was like, oh, this is actually like relatively roomy. Not very roomy, but it was very comfortable in that regard. But after a couple of days, the shoes did indeed like mold the shape of my foot, as I expected them to because of all that stuff I told you about in the sole. So pretty quickly, these became just like extraordinarily comfortable. And even from the get-go, they were very comfortable, especially with the lack of a break-in. So I was pretty happy with these shoes in that regard. Now, Trickers is not just famous for their quality, they are pretty infamous for their price. A pair of these boots will cost about $525-ish, roughly speaking. If you hear that price and you say, well, you know what, I'm just going to go and get a pair next time I'm in England so we don't have to get the imported price. In England, the cost is like 380 to 400 pounds, which translates to pretty much the exact same price. So it is very hard to find discounts on Trickers. They're sort of like very well known for that. There are a lot of people on like the Goodyear Welt subreddit who find Trickers in consignment stores and then they restore the leather and they get like really good deals on them like that. You can get them used on eBay. These are the kind of shoes that, like, if they're taken care of, they can last for decades. So it's not a terrible idea to try and find them for secondhand if that's something that you're after. If you want to get new shoes, yeah, you are unlikely to find them any cheaper than that. All right, so why should you get a pair of Trickers Stow boots? This is the Division Road version, but everything I'm going to say now does also relate to the British version. It's an awesome boot. I mean, it's a really, really fantastic boot. The welting is a nice compromise between Goodyear welts and Storm welts. Like, you know, it's a pretty water resistant, more so than a Goodyear welt, which is already very water resistant. It's also easy to resole in that regard. It's also like fully leather lined, so it's like it's really, really comfortable. I didn't really get any blisters or anything breaking them in, which I was a really big fan of. It's also got really, really good quality control. Like it's an immaculate boot. There was no wheeling in any of the stitches, which isn't even a big QC issue, so normally I don't get that upset about it. There was no wheeling, there's no loose grain in any of the leather. Like the leather selection process is clearly really, really top notch at Trickers. They clearly put a lot of work into it. The leather itself just like looks beautiful, and it's a really interesting type of calfskin that is more durable and more resilient than your regular calfskin, but it doesn't look like a, I don't know, I'm thinking of like an oil tan leather or something. Like it doesn't look like a really outdoorsy leather. So it's very nice looking, it looks fancy, but it's also like really hard wearing. So it's really something unusual and unique in my experience with calfskin leather. It's a really unusual type of calfskin leather. Then there's all that stuff going on in the sole that I mentioned, that proprietary cork, like the interesting like groove they've cut for it. And all of that just means that it did become like the shape of my foot a lot more quickly than many of its competitors. Like there wasn't much of a break-in, and it really felt like very me very quickly. So are there any downsides to these boots? I really like them. To be fair, about half of my friends absolutely hate them. They think they're completely hideous. They think the shape is weird, the color is weird, the broguing is weird. I live in Manhattan, so of course this is a very British boot, and that is something that might be worth pointing out for Americans. Like Trickers does not have the classic American work boot aesthetic, which a lot of people really like. It's like the default nice boot in America. These are unusual, you know. Some people are surprised to see them, you know, so you might have to withstand a few insults on your shoes. I say just forget those people and just like stop being their friend, because I do really like these boots. They are phenomenally expensive boots though. It's a good $500, more than $500 actually. There's no way getting around that. That's a really expensive pair of boots. And it's also, you know, the color does fade relatively quickly, which some people don't really like. And it does take a bit of work to keep up with. And also, if you do want to get like Trickers conditioning cream and everything like that, like their wax polish, you know, you have to get it shipped from overseas. That's kind of a pain in the ass. You might be able to find it somewhere in the US, but that's sort of like a downside for getting a British boot, is that, yeah, if you want to get like, you know, items for upkeep and everything, you have to get them imported. Besides that, this Commando sole, a lot of people think it just kind of ruins the cool, old-timey nature of the boot. I mean, that's fine. You can always just get the leather-soled version, but leather-soled boots have like just really crappy grip and they scratch up really quickly. But Trickers actually also has the option of getting these with a day-night sole, which I would have a very hard time finding any complaints with. So overall, I do really like these boots, but there are definitely some downsides you need to keep in mind. All right, those are my thoughts on my first pair of British boots, the Trickers Stow boots. If you want to read my full written review, where I go into even more detail, if you can believe it, and I also put some pictures in there, you can Google the full review. Just Google Stridewise and Trickers. I would really be interested in knowing what you think about these boots, because about exactly 50% of Americans that I know just detest these boots, and the others absolutely love them. So let me know in the comments what you think about these boots, and make sure you subscribe as well, because I got a ton more boot reviews and comparisons coming up.